Welcome to the video. My name's Steven. In this video, we're going to be going over the last 50 books that I read, and I'm going to just go over every single one of them and put them in this tier list, what I would recommend for you. This is self-improvement books, psychology books, and business books, all kind of meshed together. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with the first book here. We have The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. This is not in any order, by the way. These are just how the books came into the downloaded into this software. So The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It was one of the first books that I read. I really enjoyed it, and it helped me change my perspective on how to approach situations and how to approach other people and why certain things don't matter in life. And the reason that is so important is because if you allocate your fucks, as they use in the book, but if you allocate your opinions and your thoughts to things that don't really matter as much, then nothing matters, master of nothing. So the book kind of talks more about allocating your thoughts and opinions to certain things. And so for that reason, I actually will say this book has changed my life a lot, and I will go ahead and put that in the S tier to start off. Starting off, really, I'm serious, is a really good book. Mark Manson, I would definitely check it out. The next book that we have here is Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards. And this is actually the current book that I'm reading right now. Really, really enjoying it so far. Copywriting is very important. If you don't know what that is any words or verbiage that goes in front of the customer that is giving them a call to action to buy. And understand your brand. And I think copywriting is very, very important. And I'm really enjoying this book right now, but I'm not that far into it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the B tier, but it's a very, very good book. The next one we have here is Take Your Shot. I don't remember who this book was by. This is actually one of the first books I ever read. And the first book on this list for sure. And this book was about just starting your entrepreneurial journey, how to get started. It was a really good first book to read. For me, just because I wasn't an entrepreneur when I read this book. I was just a college student. So really good book, and I would say that for somebody who is getting into entrepreneurship, it's a very, very great book to read. It's very short too, so if you're not a big reader, it's only got a couple of pages in it. I'm going to go ahead and put it at the C tier, just because if you're an entrepreneur now, or you have been for a while, it probably wouldn't help you out that much. It wouldn't be that. I mean, it's a good read. It's a really short book. It's a story, but definitely not on the top of the list. So the next one that we have is Master Salesman by Napoleon Hill, and that was forwarded by Russell Brunson. Actually, not forwarded, but recreated by Russell Brunson. Kind of quick story behind the Russell Brunson Napoleon Hill thing is basically he had bought all of Napoleon Hill's old collection and then re-released some of his books that were not ever released to the public. So actually, I don't think you can just go buy this book anywhere. I had to get a specific package from Russell Brunson to get this book. Very short, just a couple pages, but it talked about salesmanship and how to how your mind is what is really controlling your sales. And it was a good short read, but it wasn't the best book that I've read, but it was definitely very insightful. And so I will also be putting that book at the C tier. The next one is The Art of Seduction. Now, I read this book. I didn't finish it, I'm going to be honest. I didn't finish it. I was reading the concise version. I got through, there's two parts to this book. There's one part where it talks about the types of seducers or the types of lovers, and then the back half of the book talks about actual tactics. And I just never, just wasn't really a big fan of it. I did like how it talked about the type of seducers and lovers, and I think that it's important to understand who you're getting into a relationship with, who you're dealing with. It was good for that aspect, but I didn't finish it, and it just didn't really keep me engaged. It is not really one of my favorite Robert Greene books, but for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the D tier. It just was it was good and it was insightful, but I just didn't really get too much knowledge from it. Maybe if I would have read it, it would have actually helped me out. But yeah, the next one that we have is Ads That Sell by Jason Wojo. He is a big marketer that's been popping off kind of recently, and I saw his book online. It was free. You had to pay for shipping, and so I said, screw it, I'm gonna get this book. It looks good. I did like the information in the book. However, the way it was written, it looked like he had either taken a voice memo of him like talking or giving a speech and then transferred into words, or he's just not a good writer. Regardless, it was just very. I just don't think it was well written. I liked the message behind it. I don't think it was the best written, but it was still a good book. I liked the stuff that he talked about. Definitely helped me learning some KPIs and some metrics that he uses and some mentality stuff. The one thing I did like about this book is that it felt like he was kind of attacking you, and I like that because I like someone to push me, and so it felt like he was pushing me, like attacking me and pushing me. So it was good for that reason, but honestly, just because it was just written so poorly, it's going to have to go into D tier for me. The next one is How Highly Effective People Speak. Now, I didn't finish this book either. This book it had really good information in it, but it was so hard to read because it was margin to margin, so full of information and context that it was hard to just sit down and read it. I really had to like take notes and pay attention, and it was a very difficult read. And I had started that was one of the 10th books I had ever read on entrepreneurship or psychology or sales or anything like that. And so I didn't really get all the way through it, but from what I did read, it was pretty good. But I'm going to go ahead and put this in the D tier as well, just because of the way that the book was. I don't like margin to margin. All this just text, and really small writing. Not a fan of that, but it was definitely a really good book. The next one is The Psychology of Money. I wasn't a fan of this book. I read it very quickly. I just didn't really gain anything from it. It felt like I just it just felt like very basic knowledge, and maybe it was at the time that I was reading it. Just wasn't really a big fan, and I don't. A lot of people really like the book Psychology of Money. A lot of people say it's a really good book, but I just didn't really get behind it. I understood the message, and there were a few things I took from it, but it really wasn't that great to me. And maybe I need to reread it, but I didn't really enjoy it. And so for that reason, I'm actually going to put this in the F tier. So the next one we have here is $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi. We already know where this is going. If you're an entrepreneur, you know where this is going. This book is so good. Alex Hormozi's books are so amazing. If you haven't picked them up and you're an entrepreneur, you need to. They're so important. I absolutely love these books. For the longest time, I've had those books in my drawer at my desk. I don't keep any other books at my desk, but I do keep those because I refer to them often. And so $100 Million Leads, he talks about how to do cold calls, how to do warm calls, how to generate leads from paid ads, and how to do organic. And I think it was a very good prototype for everything when it comes to advertising. The one thing I will say about this book, though, is that it feels so cookie cutter and everyone followed his instructions that now every ad that I see is like a copy and paste of what he talked about in the book, which is unfortunate, but for the read, it's very good, and I'll put it on the S tier. Next one I have is Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. I liked this book. I don't really have much animosity towards Grant Cardone. A lot of people don't like him. I kind of understand why, but I don't think he's that bad of a person. And I definitely think this book was very helpful for me when I first started reading. This was one of the first sales books I ever read, but it didn't really do much for me. I'm gonna be honest. It helped me kind of understand some of the basics, but he definitely just felt like a hype man, and that I know that's why people don't like him, is that he feels like a hype man. And so that's kind of what it was like a hype thing for me. And so that's why I didn't really like it that much. But it was still, it was good, but it just wasn't, it's a C tier. It's a C tier book. It's whatever. It just wasn't the best. 48 Laws of Power. That's the next one. Robert Greene. This book is way overhyped. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do think you have to be a little strange to read the entire book through cover to cover. It is a very difficult read, and there is a lot in the book that is almost sinister. I don't like the way people look at this book. There's this belief that in order to read that book, you have to be crazy and And people read this book to be like manipulative towards other people, or to hurt others in like evil or sinister vibes. I don't see that. The way I look at these psychology books, even if they look very dark, the way I look at it is you need to understand this stuff, and you need to understand when people are using this on you. Okay, and so I thought this was a good book. I didn't think it was as good as people say it is. Okay, but it was a very, very good book, and I really enjoyed it, and for that reason, I will be putting this in the A tier. I think it deserves that spot. If you haven't read this book, I would recommend reading that book over any other Robert Greene book for sure. It was his first book. It was very, very good. He does have some other good books, and there's one other one I think in this list, but that is a good book. So, the next one, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. If you haven't read this book, this is the first book you should be reading on this list, hands down. You should not read any other book on this list. And again, like I've previously stated, How to Win Friends and Influence People is not manipulating others. It is how to treat people properly. And so I read this book, and it helped me become more confident in myself, but also be more likable towards others. And one of the biggest things that I learned from reading that book and from that era of my life was that I used to think sales was manipulation. And I used to think that getting people to like you was manipulation, when that's not the case. The case is that if you want to do good things for other people and you want to be a good person, you have to be able to influence. If you want to be a leader, you have to influence. And so this book helped me understand how influence works. And so for that reason, I really, really loved this book. It showed me so much about manners and how to be nice to people and respect other people's opinions, and how to stop worrying so much about myself and start caring about other people, not manipulating them, but caring. And so for that reason, this goes in S tier. And if like seriously, if I had to rank it, it would be like first in the S tier. If you haven't read this book, read it right now. The next one we have is Deep Work by Cal Newport. I loved this book. There's two parts to it. So there's a front half that he just kind of talks about stories on how deep work works for other people. And then the back half is actually about like application of deep work. If you're not doing deep work blocks, you need to. And this book really helped me with my productivity and focus. And it was just kind of like the entry level into my focus and productivity that I just wasn't really expecting or prepared for at the time. I will say it is a pretty difficult read. It's very small words, at least in the version that I had. I don't know if there's like the picture I have here. This isn't the version I had. I had like the little paperback version, but this was definitely a very good book. I would recommend reading this ASAP. If you're a entrepreneur and you're trying to have better focus, that book helped me out a lot. So I'm gonna put that in the A tier. The next one is The Book of Five Rings. So a lot of people like live by this book, and I realize it's fighters, and it's fighters for a reason, because it's very hardcore about like fighting, and I liked it. It just didn't really seem applicable, and maybe I need to reread it, but it just didn't really feel like it applied to me. And I tried to like take what I learned from the book and apply it to business, but just wasn't. Like, I just kind of stopped caring. And so for that reason, I'm going to put it in the F tier. And I want to hear opinions on that. If you've read that book, kind of give me your thoughts. I'm going to be honest, I got to like the fifth, or there's like 5 parts, and I got to like the third or fourth one, and I just said, screw it. It's a really short book, but if you're a fighter, I would recommend reading that. But I don't know. For me, that just wasn't really it. The next one is The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willing. I like Jocko Willing. He's a really, really cool guy, smart guy, and a big motivator. But this book just kind of went too much into story. And my thing is, I've always been very big on story books. The only reason, like, How to Win Friends and Influence People is like that. And I know you know what I'm talking about, like where the chapter starts where it's some story about how someone applied this logic to their life, and then they talk about like how to apply it to your life. I don't like reading these big stories. I usually just like gaining the knowledge. And so this book was also kind of tough to read. Just wasn't really a big fan of it. But there was useful information in it. So I'm going to put it in the D tier. The next one that we have is The Diary of a CEO. That is by Steve Bartlett. He is the host of Diary of a CEO podcast. Love his podcast. Love the book. The book was so good. It was like perfect, straight to the point. He had the stories, but the stories were straight to the point. He went right into the application. It was so good. I really enjoyed this book, and I'm going to put this at the A tier. So the next one that we have is Letters from a Stoic, or Letters of a Stoic. I did not finish this book. Like, it is massive. It's like 700 pages, and there's like multiple books in it. It's a very, very big book. I did not finish it at all, but from what I have read from it, it has been nothing but helpful. And so I like referring to this book occasionally if I have problems. Usually this book will like the chapters are about problems that you'd be having usually. So I'll refer to this book when I'm having a problem and see what Seneca has to say about it. Seneca is a great author. I love the Stoic authors. Seneca is really, really good. But I haven't read the whole book. However, I will be putting this at the B tier because the stuff that I've gained from it has been very, very lucrative. The next one we have is Don't Believe Everything You Think. I don't remember the name of the author. It's a very short book. I read it very quickly, but I have recommended this book to a lot of people. The basic premise of this book, he talks about how thinking and thoughts are different. And when you have a thought, if you let it go, then it just happened. But if you have a thought and you start thinking on it, that's when you tie emotions. And he really starts to help you understand the dichotomy of your mind. And I think this book was very helpful. It's a short read. I'm sure like you've probably seen it all over TikTok because I see it everywhere. But yeah, it was a good book. This is a very good book. It's a short read. I read it in like an hour and a half. Big fan. I'm putting it in the A tier. Next one on the list is The Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday. I like Ryan Holiday. He's a good author. The Daily Stoic is a really good book. I'm gonna be honest, I don't read it. I used to read it every day. I used to wake up and look at it, but I just don't do that anymore. But it is nice looking at it every once in a while. And it's a very good book if you're just trying to have something to look at and some motivation in the morning. I'm just not that kind of person. I don't look at the Daily Stoic. I kind of just motivate myself by getting up and getting to it. But it's a good book. I would recommend getting it if you're looking for like a daily little message or something. If that's kind of that's what this book is, by the way. It's not like you read through it. There's a page for a day of the year, and you just read that page on the day of the year. I don't do it anymore. I used to do it every day. Stopped doing it. But some good information, and I'll put that in the B tier. The next one, oh baby, MJ DeMarco, The Millionaire Fastlane. This is one of the first books I read. I love this book, and I listened to the audiobook at the same time. So and he says it in the book. He says, "I'm going to talk to you like I've just met you at a bar, and we're meeting for the first time. We're friends, whatever." And that's how he talked in the book, and it was so interesting. It just he opened up a lot of understanding when it comes to business and when it comes to entrepreneurship and like the mentality behind it. And I love it. It just helped me a lot with decision making as well. That book helped me with decision making, I'd say the most. I'm going to put that book in the A tier. So the next one we have is The Laws of Human Nature. This is Robert Greene. I think his last book, maybe. I think he made it in like 2020. This book was so good. I really, really enjoyed The Law of Human Nature. It goes over the title. It goes over how people act, why they act this way, and how there's certain, not stereotypes, but personality traits that if you pick up on certain signals from people, you can kind of start to understand them better. My favorite thing about these psychology books is a lot of times it shows you micro expressions and personality traits and things that people do that you should be aware of. That's the point of psychology, and that's what I really enjoy. It's like, why do people act this way? And then you can make draw conclusions about people based on the way they act. And you can say that that's like assumptive and wrong. I don't think that's wrong at all. I think it's a good thing, especially if you're in business or just anywhere in life. Okay? If you see someone that looks shady on the street, it might be a better idea to stay away from them, regardless of their race or their gender or whoever they are. If you are having a business conversation with someone and they act a certain way, maybe I shouldn't do business with this person, or maybe I should. And so it helps you identify signs in other people, but more importantly in yourself, and try to get rid of those, right? If you have certain tendencies, reading books about psychology, in this book, The Law of Human Nature, it helped me understand my personal psyche and how to fix my problems. Okay, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, but it definitely helped me a lot. And so I will go ahead and put that in the A tier. The next one, Ego is the Enemy, Ryan Holiday. So I really didn't like this book, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people say this book's really good. Again, with the stories, not a big fan, just like the storytelling, and then after that going into the application, but the application's not very much. It's just kind of like, it just felt like a hype book to me. I was kind of over it because I'd already read like another Ryan Holiday book, and I was like, screw it, I'm not interested in this book. So I'm going to put it in the D tier. It just wasn't that good. The next one is Art of War by Sun Tzu. Really, really liked that book. This book kind of reminded me of the Book of Five Rings, except it just felt more applicable, because war is just like entrepreneurship, but like sword fighting, that's what the Book of Five, like if you want to be honest, like it talked about sword fighting, and I just like I don't sword fight. So yeah, the Art of War was really, really good. I absolutely enjoyed this book, and I'm going to go ahead and put this at, I don't know where I put this. Probably like the B tier. You know, it's a good book, but you know, it is what it is. Sell Like Crazy, Sabri Subi. Yeah. Australian guy, marketer, really good guy, sell like crazy. His book is free on his website. I endorse this book everywhere I go. I tell people, you need to get this book. It's so good. It's fire. It's amazing. You need to check this book out. It's free on his website. I'm not going to put a link in the description because like I'm not affiliated and I don't care, but you can just look it up and find it yourself. Sell Like Crazy. This book was so good. I kept this book in my desk with the Alex Hormozi books as well. S tier, for sure. That book was so tangible, was so good, and I would recommend that read to anybody who's an entrepreneur or in advertising. The next one is Beyond the Agency Box by Frankie Finn. I really enjoyed that book so much. However, it is agency specific. So if you don't run an agency, you probably won't need the book, but it definitely helped me open my eyes to what is beyond the agency. You know, a lot of people, if you're in the marketing agency space, you know this, or even if you've heard a marketer talk about this if you're a business owner, but we'll get you XYZ jobs or your money back guaranteed with that offer, and then the same cold calls, and it's the same thing as everyone else. This helped me think outside of what everyone else is doing, and so I really enjoyed that. And if you're an agency owner, I would recommend it, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A tier. So we've definitely hit like the halfway mark now. We're like halfway through. We got a couple left. I don't know if you can see at the bottom, there's like anime here. This like tier list generator had anime characters. I didn't know how to get rid of them, so they're there. So don't mind that. But we're halfway through the list, I think, or a little bit over halfway. If you're enjoying this, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. I make videos all the time. Actually, not gonna lie, haven't uploaded in a couple of days, couple of weeks, but I usually upload very often. So I wanted to come back. I know a lot of people like my book series, so I have like a top 5 entrepreneur books and a top 5 self-improvement books. I would definitely go check those out after this. I will leave it at the end of the video. So the next one that we have is $100 Million Offers. I like this book more than leads. This book is better than leads in my opinion, because offers are way more important than gathering leads. You need to have the offer dialed in. This book really helped me dial in my offer, and it's very tangible, and I do the work in this book. It's like a workbook, and I do it regularly. Very, very good book. Big fan. I would check it out. The next one is Principles by Ray Dalio. This book, I have mixed feelings about it. It's very long. There's a lot in it. But Ray Dalio is a very successful person, and I really liked the information that he gave and his decision-making processes. But it felt a little long to me. Maybe I'm just like, it just felt too much like the principles. There's so many principles. But it was a great book. The knowledge I learned from it was awesome. I'm just going to put that in the B tier. It's a good book. It's all-around a good book. The next one on the list is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I have mixed feelings about this book, and the internet has mixed feelings about this book, and I want to do this book justice by giving my honest opinion about it. It was one of the first books I read, and I enjoyed reading it. However, I am not a 4-hour work week person. And if you're not a 4-hour work week person, this book is not for you. This book is for people who want to work 2 hours a day and sit on a beach and drink Mai Tais. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's not the kind of life I want to live. I want to grow a big business. I want to help a lot of people, and I want to work because that's fun. And I think that after you sit on a beach for a week and a half and you are drugging yourself into the unconsciousness, it begins to get boring and you become a laughing stock after a month. And that's not the life I want to live. I want to live a work and fulfilled life. And so I don't think that book will help me. There is just some good knowledge in there. It does teach you about how to start a dropshipping store. I'm going to be honest. If you are today, like if you're alive today, that dropshipping knowledge stuff is not as lucrative as other shit that you could read these days. I'm going to be honest. Like it is that book. I don't remember when it was written, but it was written when dropshipping like wasn't that big. And now dropshipping is. And so you're not going to get away with, the little bit of work that he talks about in this book because a lot of people have replicated. You got to go out of the way, above and beyond. A lot of good references in the book, but all around, it was a good read. It just is so not applicable to me, and it's going to be in the F tier. The next one we have is Atomic Habits. James Clear wrote this book, and I love it. It is so good. It talks about how to break down a habit, why you do the things you do, and how to fix them. This book is all around amazing. I absolutely love it, and I'm going to put that in the S tier. One of the best books of all time, in my opinion. The next one we have is Read People Like a Book by Patrick King. This book was really, really good. A lot of hands-on, tangible knowledge on people's psychology. I absolutely loved it. And I would recommend checking it out. This book will have to go in the A tier. The next book that we have is Facebook Advertising. It's like an ultimate guide to Facebook advertising. It was written by a lot of different people. There was a lot of good knowledge in there, and I learned a lot from doing it. There was a lot of esoteric knowledge about Facebook ads. I mean, I wouldn't call anything about Facebook ads esoteric, but I would say that it does do deep dives into like deep funnel work and advanced strategies and just basic application. However, it's a little bit outdated. It was written, I think, in 2020. And so the time of this recording is 2024. A lot has changed. And so some of this stuff is not valuable. And so if you're a first time media buyer, if you're just starting out in advertising, I would not recommend reading this book because you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between what's working and what doesn't. But since I was a little bit further down the line when I read this book, I actually know like some of this stuff isn't a thing anymore, or some of it's not a good strategy anymore. It was a good strategy 4 years ago, but it's not. And so for that reason, I'll put it in the B tier. The next one is 1 Million Followers by Brendan Kane. This book was good. It's like one of the first books I read when I started posting online. I liked it. It just kind of felt very basic. There was some good stuff in it, but it just wasn't like the best book. And so for that reason, I'm going to put it in the C tier. But definitely if you're like just now getting into posting online, if you're like a YouTuber or you're like an Instagram influencer, that's the term, I would recommend reading it. As you can see over here on the side of the screen, we got these anime characters popping up now. We're almost to the end here. The next one we have is Flow by, I couldn't even tell you the person's name. This book is so deep. It dives so deep into the psyche and why you act the way you do. It's about flow state. Flow state is when you aren't worried about anything else. You're just working. Like right now, I would say I'm in flow state. I'm not thinking about anything. I've had one mess up this entire time. I've just been completely focused on this task that's in front of me. And it's about finding things that you can derive meaning from in life. Very, very good book. Except it was hard to read. It was very hard to read. Little words. And for that reason, I actually didn't finish it. But from how far I got into it, it was really good. I'm going to put it in the B tier. Put that one in the B tier. Building a Story Brand, Donald Miller Building a Story Brand. This book was really, really good, and it helped me understand how to get in front of a customer and show them that I can produce results. And the thing was, when I was originally building my brand, I built it on this idea of I am this person and I want you to accept me for who I am. And then this book changed my idea on that, and it went from it's not about me, it's about the customer and the customer journey and how do I make that happen while building my brand. So it's a really good book, but I don't think it's better than some of the other ones on this list, and so for that reason it's going to go in the B tier. Psycho-Cybernetics. This book just kind of felt like it just felt so basic. I stopped reading it. I got like halfway through and I was like, I just didn't really like it. I'm gonna be honest. It just like I'd already gotten past who that book was speaking to. Like I wasn't that person. But if you are trying to get into like self-improvement, I would recommend reading it, but I don't think it's better than some of the other ones on this list. But for that reason, it's just going to go to the D tier. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. This book was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was one of the first books I read. It really helped me understand the idea of a mastermind and how to take track of yourself, how to understand where your difficulties are, where your struggles are, and how to become a better person. The basic rundown is Andrew Carnegie came to Napoleon Hill and said, hey, I want you to go interview like the most rich people in this country for the rest of your life and write books on them. And so Napoleon Hill took that and he went and interviewed everybody. And actually, I was talking about this earlier with the Master Salesmanship, and there's actually a rewritten version by Russell Brunson with the old information, Napoleon Hill's first copies, because actually what happened was I think it was like Henry Ford came to Carnegie and was like, you cannot release these books. There's so much information on here. This would like get so many people rich. It's not okay. And so it got dumbed down to the version it is today. I do have the original version. I haven't read it, but I've read the version from today, and it was really good. I go over this book with my mastermind regularly. And so for that reason, I'm going to put it in the A tier. The reason I won't put it in S tier is because it just doesn't compete with the books on the list up there. The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita. This book was so good. It was one of the first books that I read, and to this day, it is still my favorite book of all time. This right here is my favorite book of all time. It's very short and to the point, and it shows you how to be a superior man. Because we live in a day and age where a lot of men have been feminized, okay? And the world is being feminized. And so men don't know how to act and how to become better and how to improve themselves. And so this book helped me understand that. And more importantly, how to treat women, right? I think it's important as a man to learn how to treat women and how to respect women. And so this book helped me do that and helped me understand their psyche. You need to understand the femininity as a man. You need to understand these things. And so this book helped me do that, helped me become a purpose-driven man. And I got to give it to David Dita. This book was really good. That is S tier, favorite book of all time. Up at the front here. This isn't in any particular order, but I did put these in the front because if anytime I recommend a book to somebody who's not an entrepreneur, I always say Way of the Superior Man, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Read those books first. So the next one that I have here is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This book was really good. A lot of people talk about it. It's not overhyped. This book is actually great, and it really helped me understand the way of the world and Stoicism. I think this book was awesome, and for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A tier. We're coming in on the final stretch, ladies and gentlemen. We're like in the last 10 here. Discipline is Destiny, Ryan Holiday. I loved this book. However, I will say that I read Ego is the Enemy after, and after seeing the same formula, I stopped reading Ego is the Enemy. So it's like I could only take like one Ryan Holiday book, and then I couldn't do it anymore. It's just the formula. I know the information is valuable, but it's a formula. It's still a good book. I really enjoyed it. It was a kind of easy read, but I will be putting that in the C tier because I just don't think it's as good as some of the other books on this list. This is Marketing by Seth Godin. Godin. Pretty good book, good information. Just doesn't get to the same level as some of these other books on this list. And so just to be honest, for that reason, I will also be putting it in the C tier. But it is a very good book on marketing. I would check it out. Hook Point by Brendan Kane. I think this was just a more extensive version of 1 Million Followers. It was still a good book. Like, I really enjoyed it. But again, it doesn't hit the same spot that the rest of these books do on this list. And, it was just very basic to me. It's kind of how it felt. And so for that reason, I'm also going to be putting it in the C tier as well. So the next one that we have is Exactly What to Say. I don't know who wrote this book. It's a very tiny book. It's a handbook, but it literally just goes over the exact words you should be using in sales situations. It's very short. It's a flip, like you can flip to certain pages and see what you should be saying. It shows you just a little nuance in how you change some of your language, of how you could improve your life and improve your sales skills. I really, really like this book, and so for that reason, I'm going to be putting it in the A tier. Whatever It Takes by Brandon Bordanson. He is the founder of Seamless AI, I think. Seamless AI. I started reading this book. It's a good book if you're starting out in entrepreneurship and self-improvement, but not really. When I say it's good, I mean it's like kind of good motivation. However, I just think it screamed too much motivation and not enough technical stuff or anything to hold on to, grasp onto. And so for that reason, I'm putting it in the F tier. I'm going to be honest, this is my least favorite book I've ever read. Who Moved My Cheese? This book right here, if you haven't read it, I would totally recommend reading it. This is a great book, an absolutely epic book. It's a very short story, and it helps you understand who you are and how the world works and how to hire people. It's just a really good book, all around. It's like a metaphor to help you be better in life. And so for that reason, I'm going to be putting this in the A tier as well. Dark Psychology and Manipulation. Once again, like I've said before about these other books, that book looks kind of dark. However, I will say once again, it is about learning how other people use these tricks on you and how to prevent that from happening. That is why I read these books, okay? And also see where maybe I've used some of these tactics on other people too, and how to prevent doing that too. This helped me understand the world, understand the media machine very, very well. This was a great book. Very, very good book, and for that reason, it will also be going into the A tier. We've got 4 books left. We're coming up on Robert Cialdini's Influence. Man, this book was so long, but it was so good. Very, very good. The new and improved version, too, with Unity. You got to read it with Unity. If you've read this book before, you read the old one without the Unity chapter, you got to read the Unity chapter. That one is so good. Influence is such an awesome book. And I would recommend reading this if you were a business owner, hands down. This goes on my S tier for sure. The next one we have is Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. This book, I have mixed feelings about it. I didn't really use the information in this book. I don't know. I was just a little far ahead when I read this book. If you're a new entrepreneur, I would recommend reading it, but I just didn't need this information. It just didn't really help me. And for that reason, I actually didn't finish it. But maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please, if I'm wrong about any of these books and you think that some of these books are good, or, I need to, the ones that I said I didn't finish reading, tell me in the comments. I would love to know. But yeah, Your Next 5 Moves, that goes in the D tier, honestly. The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. This was an audio book. I don't think there's a physical copy. I listen to this book regularly. So he talks about selling. A lot of information there is very good. And actually, for that reason, I'm going to be putting it in the S tier as well. And then the last book, I don't know who wrote this book. I started reading it, and I almost put it down immediately. I know what to do, so why don't I do it? I just really wasn't a big fan of this. It just didn't really help me. It didn't do anything for me. And so for that reason, I'm going to be putting that in the F tier, unfortunately. But that's it. That's all the books. That's my tier list. I hope you enjoyed that. I would rank these anime characters, but I literally don't know a single one of them. That's it. That's the whole list. I know this is a pretty long video, but I know I've been posting much, but I figured this would be a fun one that, you know, would be interesting for everyone who likes to read and people on my channel. If you have any opinions on these books, please let me know in the comments. I want to hear, and your book recommendations. I want to hear them in the comments as well. Like, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.